Now, we're bringing it back here as Nigeria marks 65 years of independence. It's not possible to ignore the dramatic evolution of Nigeria's political landscape from our parliamentary mode to a now presidential mode, from the regional developments that we've had and seen in the past 65 years. We will agree that a lot has happened in terms of determining what our political trajectory is, the disruptions that have happened, as well as the deliberate reforms. Today, we're going to be exploring the role of the judiciary and ethnic divisions that we currently have to battle as a nation, even as we inch further towards the dream of a truly democratic country. I'm joined this morning by the Lagos State gubernatorial candidate of the Labour Party, who is no longer with the Labour Party. I'm sure we're talking about that much later. I'm talking of Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Happy Independence Day.
Happy Independence Day to you. Green, white, green.
I know, right?
Let's start with the speech this morning, the speech of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He spoke about a lot, the economy, he spoke about security, and he said the worst is over. Do you believe?
I mean, when did the killings happen in Kwara State? I don't think anybody can say the worst is over. I read the speech, and it was just a collection of hypocrisy and contradictions. At the end of the speech, I recall he said he was talking about buying meat in Nigeria, Nigeria first, and all of that. And I was just thinking back to the convoys that I've seen him move across Nigeria and in Abuja. And I was thinking, if those cars were all made in Nigeria, can you imagine kind of advertisements that would bring and how that would boost local car manufacturers in Nigeria?
So if your vision is made in Nigeria, you're the number one citizen of Nigeria, and the government is actually supposed to amplify made in Nigeria, that is what you will think to do. Or you will not put that in your speech, right? And just say, you know what, you're going to use Japanese cars and American cars, or don't talk about made in Nigeria. But that's just one small example of the contradictory nature of that speech, or the attempts to push away the buck of poor policy implementation that's happened with the APC government, and trying to separate himself from that, talking about how they successfully put aside the ways and means. Meanwhile, this was a man that was telling President Buhari to print more Naira and suspend VAT, for the country to manage the economy. That was his idea of how the economy can be managed. So the entirety of the APC is complicit in the failure that Nigeria has experienced in over the last decade, right? And that's my opinion on it. A government came in through propaganda, and they're trying to sustain their perception by propaganda.
What are the areas that you think he should have spoken to in the speech that you think were not adequately addressed? Yes, whilst you may not agree with some of the facts that he had presented in the speech, were there areas that you had expected that the president would speak to that he didn't speak to?
But you cannot speak to
your failure, right? In the sense that you have to do the work to be able to speak to it. If not, you just create lies and contradictions and try to cover up the failure and just more of the same propaganda, right? So if you've done the job you're supposed to do, if we've created a fleet of vehicles that are powered by CNG and they are bringing in food from the rural area and it's reducing the cost of food coming to urban centers and food inflation has come down, you will speak about that. But you can't, because you've not implemented that policy, right? You will speak to refineries up and running and the cost of our fuel coming significantly lower, kerosene, and all these things that people that are suffering actually spending their hard-earned money on. If you were able to achieve that, as you said you would, because we spend so much money on refineries, and now it seems like the refineries are not working and they've given up on it. And the thing is, because the propaganda is just in your face constantly, you don't even know what narrative to believe, right? A is B, B is C. You can't even keep track for the most part, So he would do what somebody that has failed at something will do, which is cover it up, or come out and be honest about it, right? But then even being honest about it is not enough, because the buck stops at your table. The extent of corruption that's going on in this country, you are giving out monies to people saying that you are trying to help the poverty and the suffering people are dealing with. How are those people selected? What is the transparency of that process? How is that process being audited? We had a humanitarian affairs minister and a number of people that have been fingered or pointed out as moving funds that are supposed to help Nigerians, right, to personal accounts. What has happened to those people? How have they been brought to book? What systems are we put in place to prevent that from happening again? You see, so it's just more of the same, and you find there isn't really much to celebrate today. Again, we should be in a period of mourning. You know, there's so many people dying unnecessarily, right? You looked at what happened in Kwara State. Like, what is going on with our army? You know, why are they not funded the way they should be funded? What's the level of surveillance that we have in this country? We're in a time where you can use drones to monitor things. You can use that to gather intelligence. There's new technology you can use. Why are these things not happening? Why is there so much conspiracy about the army not doing what they're supposed to do to prevent these murders from happening or taking charge? You know, so we are a country that has not achieved a singular purpose in terms of what our vision for Nigeria is, right? And that comes through. And it's very unfortunate, because this comes at the cost of a lot of lives and destinies being destroyed in this country.
28 months of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in office, and we hear over and again how of these policies that have been put in place to better improve the quality of life for Nigerians will need some more time to kick into effect. Is that not an argument enough? Because even as recently as this week, we have spoken with people who would say that the economy is going in an upward trajectory. We'll come to politics, but I just want us to put on this, and then we'll come into politics. That the economy is going in an upward trajectory, and even from the numbers and the statistics that the president had read out in today's speech, they're saying a little more time. That Q1, in fact, we had a guest who said Q1 of 2026, we should see a fully functional economy, in the sense that the average everyday Nigerian expects to see that. Is that something that you maybe can see some sense? If
I come in here and I destroy this entire studio, right, and then 3 months later I come and put these tables back, and I'm telling you, look, I've put these tables back. You are supposed to clap for me and celebrate me. These people met the dollar to Naira at 700 Naira. Buhari met the dollar at 160, 200. I look back at Facebook posts and tweets where we were so angry that the dollar had gotten up to 200 Naira. We were so angry, like, this man must go, these leaders must go. You find the situation where the current leadership of the APC, they were calling protests, occupying Nigeria for 200 Naira. It just sounds like a joke to me right now, because I remember under the PDP I was changing 4,000 pounds for £1 million Naira. Now you can barely get, how much? You can barely get 500 pounds for £1 million Naira now, right? Like, so it's an epic failure. These people came in on the goodwill of Nigerians that were going to make Nigeria better, not plunge it into chaos and expect us to clap for them that now the dollar is 1,500 from a high of 1,900, and we should be happy that this is a new normal. Okay, you've removed subsidies. How are you using that money to benefit the people? How are their lives? What is your vision for Nigerians? What's your bigger vision? The report earlier on was showing what's happening in Kogi in terms of the Lord Lugard Center and all of that. Like, a country of people that have vision, that will not happen, right? And it's just very unfortunate. Even when you look at it, the level of the political patronage that has allowed for the amount of division and insidious sort of attacks, tribal attacks on each other, that's destroying the cohesion of this country, right? That's another thing to talk about, because in his speech he talked about, a needless war that happened. A needless war, yet your prodigies are just going around trying to destroy the national fabric of this country, just to sow distraction so that people don't actually talk about the issues, and they just keep bickering at each other about things that don't really even matter to their lives.
I'm glad that you've talked about the ethnic rivalry that we experienced. I mean, you've had a taste of it at the last elections. With the way that our politics is being run in Nigeria, do you ever see a time where we can run politics that is not based on ethnicity, where we don't have to thread along ethnic lines?
No, see, when a set of political leaders don't have a vision to sell, they sell division. This is a fact. Right? If you don't have a vision to sell, to lift people up to see that vision, what you want to do is divide and rule. So you want to make sure that the classes, the tribes, the religions, they're not coming together. You want to sell an idea that has really nothing to do with your life after elections, that you should vote just because of this idea without selling any vision, any policy, any big ideas. You know? So that's what tends to happen. And it's not just me. I mean, you look at Lagos, for instance. Jimmy Agbaje is a thoroughbred, blue-blooded Lagosian. And they were calling him Jimmy Chukwu, right? So anybody that comes up to challenge the hegemony of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the first thing that's taken away from you is your Yorubaness. Same thing with Pa Ayadebanjo, same thing with even Chief Obasanjo, right? They will start questioning your Yorubaness, because as though the Yoruba group of people, the Yoruba tribe or Yoruba race, or however you want to allude to the Yoruba nation, is this group of people that are not allowed to think for themselves, and they must just do what this person says they should do. And that is very problematic. It's very problematic because the people don't get the best. If you are not asking questions and holding your politicians to higher standards, you're not going to get good governance. Good governance is not given willingly. It's because the politician should feel pressured that if they don't deliver good governance, they'll be kicked out. If they don't feel that way, then they're just coming to office to accrue wealth for themselves, their family, and their cronies. So it is a strategy. It's a strategy to divide and rule. It's a strategy to distract, especially for the young people.
But do you see that's a possibility for us to, overcome that in the next elections? We have, 2 years?
Certainly, because we've seen what happened in 2023. A lot of Nigerians have seen it. They've seen how the propaganda worked. They've seen the realities that they are living with. The person that you're insulting on Twitter or Facebook, both of you are buying for the same price. Both of you are experiencing a failed country together, right? Hunger is affecting everybody, regardless of tribe. So, as people, as leaders, you must learn from your mistakes. So, I do not expect a people to keep going around the same circle and expect a different result. You have to hold politicians accountable, and when they don't do well, you remove them. So let them go and learn some lessons. And if the person you put in there does not do well, remove him, put it back. Your life cannot be worse than what it is today. Right? That's how I see it.
Okay, now let's talk about elections. Elections are a fundamental part of our democracy. We're celebrating independence, the ability for us to be able to make our own decisions, choose our own leaders. And elections are a key part. Unfortunately, in the past years, our elections have gotten a lot of criticism, not just from Nigerians, but also from international observers. What role, let's start with INEC. We'll talk about the different sectors and institutions that have a role to play in upholding our democracy, the courts inclusive. But let's start with INEC and the role that INEC has played so far.
Under President Goodluck Jonathan, there seems to be a progressive step forward with INEC. Introduction of the card reader. Unfortunately, it was a system that actually got him out of office, right? And with this one, we believe that electronic transmission of voting would actually really bring some transparency and some good to our electoral process. Unfortunately, we were proved wrong. and all the hopes of Nigerians were dashed because overnight somebody just decided that, you know what, we're not going to transmit election results, and there's been no consequence to that. Regardless of how much money was spent on INEC, regardless of how much money was donated to INEC to be able to achieve that. And if there are no consequences, why do you expect that they will do things any different this time? So we're a nation that consequences only come to those that are fighting government, right? And that is the issue. So I don't know many Nigerians that have faith in the electoral process. And at this point in time, the way we are looking at this is that we would have to face the elections understanding what happened in 2023 and make sure that the people are mobilized so that they also ensure that their votes count. It cannot be a situation where you vote and go home. You have to follow it because your life after elections, the next 3-4 years of your life is determined by what happened on that election day. And we need to create for democracy to work, the people's voices must be heard. And the people's voices must have consequence. That's the only way politicians will sit up and actually do right by the people. So it's very important that, you know, the people, we're not going to look, I mean, we have to learn from what happened the last time. There have been no consequences. Everybody's just carrying on their lives.
But why weren't there consequences?
Well, because you have a situation of state capture, to my mind. There's been an active process of state capture that has happened across major institutions in Nigeria. I mean, look at when I wanted to declare to just have an affirmation event for my followers to come and affirm that they're following me to join another party. The Commissioner of Police hijacked my campaign ground, right? And then on the day that I paid for, the APC held a rally there. Like, if there is no other incident that can explain what state capture is, it is that.
Just to touch on that, what you've mentioned, there were videos that we saw online of your team being attacked.
Yeah.
Were there investigations carried out? Have any arrests been made?
Who would investigate who? The police will investigate themselves. I'm talking about a commissioner of police that prevented me from having my constitutional rights to be able to gather, right? In Delta State, the entirety of the PDP governors decamped to the APC. It was without event, right? And several other governors have done that. It was without event. It was not an issue, right? But somehow, this protracted thing where police supposed to enforce my constitutional rights, my human rights, they are the ones that are preventing that from happening, right? So this situation with state capture is very, very unfortunate because today it's me, tomorrow it could be you, right? It's not about Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, it's about our rights as citizens, right? And if this is the new normal, at a point the people are going to have to push back. And that's not going to look pretty.
So when you say that, you know, there's state capture, like from your experience, you detailed what happened when you were about to announce moving to another political party. Investigations haven't been carried out from what you're saying, and no arrests have been made. Typically, the courts should be the final point. They're the last hope for the common man, it's said. But what's the role of the judiciary? Especially because if we look at our politics, one of the most common slogans we hear from politicians is go to court. If you're not in support, go to court. And we haven't seen a number of cases turn out in a different direction. It's almost like some people would argue that it's been a predicted direction. And so my question would be, what is the role of the judiciary and how do we strike that balance with finding the judiciary as truly the last hope of the common man and not being dragged into partisan politics?
There are several judges that retired from Supreme Court that have given their opinions about judiciary. If a name comes to me, former Chief Justice, GSA of Supreme Court, Amina, I think she gave a scathing opinion about the state of judiciary. And the judiciary, more than any of the arms of government, is one that you progress through. You are not elected into it, so you are supposed to be above the fray. And they are literally the guardians of society. Because, like you said, they have the final say. The Senate, the presidency, everything comes under, because they are the ones that ultimately enforce and ensure that the Constitution is preserved, right? And where that institution is no longer looked up to or seen as that final arbiter, as that place where we get justice. Because right now, a lot of people tell you it's not a court where you get justice, a court of law. So that makes it prone to technicalities. That makes it prone to cases being thrown out because of a technicality, not because of a quest to find justice and deliver justice in a timely way. And that is why people have the opinion that they have now. Majority of people, you can do a poll. It'll be interesting, a poll in Nigeria to say, okay, what is your opinion on judiciary? I'm not saying that people are not finding justice in judiciary. I'm talking about the overall perspective of it. And that is very, very disheartening, and it's something that we should be worried about, because those are pillars that hold up the hope and belief that people have in a society.
All right, let's now move to another dimension. There's been an increase in the calls for participation in youth and women in politics. The conversation about the constitutional review is one that has been a top conversation. We've seen how there have been calls for 35% affirmative action. There have been calls for the constitution to be reviewed in such a way that women are guaranteed sort of a percentage, right, in politics. Some people just feel like it's face value, that it's not anything to be taken serious. But from what you've seen, let's use this current administration, the past 28 months. From what you've seen, has this administration shown you that there's been a priority in upholding women's rights to participate in politics?
I wouldn't say so. I think it's in our interest as a people to have as many representative voices on the table for any decision that's being made. You come out with more robust policy, you come out with a policy that speaks to the needs of everybody, right? As opposed to just having men in power or having older people in power. You want youth representation, you want women representation for the robust health of the country. And I feel that, yes, the challenge of participating in politics is skewed against women, at least the politics that we play in this country. So our politics has to evolve significantly, where it is more about your ideas as opposed to how many people you know, how many people you are giving envelopes to, how you are organizing for security, or all of that kind of stuff. Does not really skew in favor of majority of women. Obviously, there's significant number of women that are also in politics and actively doing very well. But I feel that it should be more open and more welcoming to youth and women, because it creates a much more robust policy conversation.
I mean, certainly, women make up a huge percentage of the voting population.
Exactly.
And cannot be underrepresented. 4 out of 109 senators is a very terrible representation of women in politics. But do you believe in the constitutional amendment process? Do you believe that the Senate is going to take that as priority? And do you believe in the reforms that will be put forward in the constitutional review?
When you ask question, believe, I will see it when they do it now. I should not have to believe. It's not a religion. If you say you want to do something, do it, and let's see. Because ultimately, the proof is in the pudding. We will see the female representatives. I mean, political parties have done certain things. I remember in PDP, there was the whole thing of, and I think also in other parties as well, women do not pay the huge nomination fee for their forms. They pay just the expression of interest. So that reduces the financial barrier for women to come into office. And I saw that apply to youth as well, under 35. So those are some good steps. So I would like to see what the Senate also does to improve on that as well.
All right, now let's come to you. You have officially moved from the Labour Party to the ADC. Tell us how that journey has been for you. Yes, we know it wasn't without difficulty, like you expressed, on the day of your announcement. You also did say that you've gotten the approval of His Excellency Peter Obi to move to the ADC.
Okay, so what's your question?
So the question is, what are your expectations for, how you think that the influence that the ADC will wield for you in the forthcoming elections?
So all of us are working on building a robust coalition. His Excellency Peter Obi as well, and several other political leaders in Nigeria. So when I say approval, I'm talking about us agreeing that this is the direction we want to go. This is what we're doing. It's not like, oh, can I go? Yes, you can go. No. It's a conversation about what is the step that needs to be taken, especially with this type of politics that's currently going on. This entrenchment of violence and aggression and intimidation and state capture. You cannot think you will face a system like this by yourself. You're just deceiving yourself, putting people's lives on the line and wasting a huge amount of money. So we need to pool our resources and come together in several ways, right? And that's what we're working actively at. A success in that field will be ensuring that opposition is united around one candidate, right? And we all pool our resources, ideas, strength behind that person and face this current.
This challenge you mentioned, is the ADC immune from it? Because we see different people with different ideologies coming together, and many people argue that it seems that the vision of the ADC is literally just to come and kick APC out of office. And that with the multiple ideologies of the different people coming together, there will soon be an implosion. So
there are ideologies of the different people, or interest. I even think the word interest is better. But there's also an ideology of the ADC that's been enshrined in their constitution. Things like ensuring that no particular politician can claim godfather status over the party and own the party. There are mechanisms in place in the constitution to prevent that from happening, and can challenge that in court. Right? That is new. I mean, I've read different political parties' constitutions, and there's nothing like that I've seen before. So the ADC has its own ideology. Now, the bigger idea here is, okay, how can we come together around specific interest? And that's what we are working towards, right? And it's not easy. It's not an easy journey, but it's something that everybody has agreed must be done, right? So that's the first step. And between now and December, I'm sure you see that distilled and filtered down.
Okay, as we wrap up, just to confirm, you're running for office.
Why do you guys ask me this question every time? Yes, by God's grace.
Because a lot of people change their mind last minute.
I'm not that kind of person. No, I'm not that kind of person. I try to be a man of my word, so I don't talk carelessly.
Okay, so what sort of changes would you like to see, first in Lagos State and in Nigeria? So when we're having another Independence Day address, the 66th Independence Day address, what are some of the changes you would like to see, first in Lagos State and then in our country, Nigeria?
I'd like to see a visionary government that is about implementing ideas and not passing the buck and responsibility on the people, right? I want to see visionary means by which our flooding system is managed, understand that Lagos is a sinking city, and seeing structures put in place to reduce that, reduce the flooding, reduce the amount of waste that is gathered in our gutters. Our gutters are covered properly. Understand that Lagos can be a sponge city, right? So you're not going to destroy Makoko and then sandfill it. You look at the still system that they have. How do you modernize it? Look at the Netherlands and how they are managing their water situation. Look at Japan and how they manage GCAN. Look at Venice and how they're managing it. And that should then be enshrined in our building codes, right? And then we also need a state that is working in partnership with its people, not constantly looking to demolish buildings where people are such a hard time. Yesterday we had the trade fair that is under that an act was passed by the federal government to establish it. They have a body by which they get their planning approvals and petitions and all of that done. Now, Lagos State came and is destroying so many buildings. in a country where you don't have mortgages, in a country where the economy is so hard, the quickness with which they destroy things, and then they said it was on a drainage channel. We went there to look. We did not see any such thing. The canal is there. It's not even, it does not even have an embankment. So the government has failed to put an embankment on that particular canal. So they come and they are destroying things. And this also happened last year, earlier in the year, where they were just going around demolishing, destroying buildings. And you think a government should show empathy, right? It should be looking to solve problems, not constantly looking to exert power, right? And that also is as a result of a lack of consequences. You know, when politicians have gotten away with so much for so long, they start to get this idea that they're invisible, that the people cannot get them out. And that's not healthy for our democracy, right? So I want a government that is more responsive to people, more transparent, more accountable. You see with President Tinubu now, our finances have become opaque. Reports that are supposed to be put out every year, we're seeing that is no longer happening. Similar things happening in Lagos State as well. Our finances need to be open so that it can get a life of its own. Transparency allows for credibility to be built. It allows for, it also checks corruption. Because now you know that these things are going to be transparent and people are going to see it, so we cannot be so in your face about the corruption and not care about it, you know. So those are some of the things that I feel need to change. You know, really embracing merit, right? And actually a vision that comes to unite. There should be a big vision that works to unite the Nigerians. From our syllabus in our history to our policies to how we manage ethnic tensions, there must be a bigger vision to create a Nigerian. You see, and that has to be artificially done, just the way Lord Lugard artificially joined North and South. If we decide that we're going to be Nigeria, there must be a bigger vision to create a Nigerian in mind, in thought, in deed, right? And there are ways by which you do this. And I tell people, look at America. America is a country that is made up of the Italians, the Irish, the Scandinavians, but there is an idea of what it means to be American. They are proud to be American. Why? It's from their architecture to their history in school, to their education, to even propaganda. There's such a thing as positive propaganda. Propaganda does not just have to be about covering government's lies and creating division among yourselves so you divide and rule. Propaganda can unite your people around a vision and an idea of who they are, right? So these are some things that we want to see, bigger ideas, people that are coming to office based on ideas and vision, not dividing us and buying our votes.
Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.